friends, it's Kristi. Welcome to another chat video. In today's chat, I'm going to talk to you about my first month on my animal-based whole foods type diet, kind of a modified version of it. I want to fill you in on how I did throughout the month of that. And also, as promised, I had put something on social media asking for prayers for my husband as he was in the hospital. So just kind of want to fill you in on what happened there and just kind of go over the first month of 2025 with you. We are kind of coming and going today. We've done some running around this morning, and then I said, I need to get that chat video. I promised them that chat. Y'all know me. I don't follow a script. I just kind of start talking, and sometimes it ends up a lot longer than I planned. So first, because I know you all have been really kind of curious as to what's going on with my husband, I thought I would start with sharing that, and then I'll go into the month on the animal-based whole foods, Weight Watchers type diet that I'm following. So my husband, he had been having like some bladder issues for a little while. I think it was worse than I realized. I think just because of the man in him, he wasn't listening to the signs. He doesn't like to go to the hospital. He's kind of one of those people who, you know, unless he's really, 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 really sick, he won't go. He got really, really, really sick. So he had been kind of having some bladder issues. He is 54 years old and his dad had prostate cancer. And so he knew that he would probably at some point have some prostate issues. He thought that he just had maybe a really bad UTI, like a urinary tract infection. When he was explaining to me, sorry if you hear noises, my dog is sitting right under my table. But he was kind of explaining to me the symptoms he was having. I was like, wow, that sounds like you just have like a really bad urinary tract infection. So of course you can buy the over-the-counter azo type stuff and all that. So he was using that, but it was not working. And he got to the point that he was in the most excruciating pain I've ever seen this man in. And mind you, he's 54. We've been together since we were 15. So there's a lot of years that I've seen any pain he's had. And this was beyond what I had ever seen him. So that was, it started on a Thursday night. By Saturday, Friday night wasn't too bad. And then Saturday was when I was trying to convince him, look, I really feel like you need to go to urgent care. And honestly, at that point, I felt like urgent care was just going to send him to the hospital. So he's like, no, let me just, try and tough it out and see what happens overnight. I'll keep taking the medicine. So the next morning was Sunday, and that was it. He said, I'm going to have to go to the hospital. You got to take me to the hospital. So took him to the hospital. They did a bunch of tests. They found that he had bladder retention, like urinary retention. So basically his bladder was filling up, but it was not letting any out. So basically, in a nutshell, the CAT scan showed that he had the urinary retention. That was so bad, and that was caused, they did say that he had an enlarged prostate, so that was caused from that apparently. And because it had gotten so bad, it went up into the kidneys. His kidneys started shutting down, so they needed to admit him. He then ended up going into sepsis. He didn't get into sepsis shock, thank the Lord, but he did end up with sepsis. It's like touch and go once you get to that point. Either your body's going to fight it, or it's going to be a lot worse, and it happens very quickly when it gets a lot worse. Luckily for him, his body did fight it. They, went real aggressive with the antibiotics and everything in the hospital that first night. So that did get better. So he slowly improved. There were a lot of things. I don't know if it was the medication that he was on, but his body was just going through the ringer with everything. So he did end up staying in the hospital for 4 days, and then they let him go on 2 weeks home treatment. So I did stay, I was off. They let me stay in the hospital with him. Like I said, we've been together for a lot of years, 38 years, and this man is my best friend. So of course I wanted to stay with him. And so I stayed with him in the hospital, and then I was able to kind of take care of him when he got home. And then luckily he was doing pretty well once he got home. Well, it wasn't really requiring a lot of like nursing things or anything like that. So just kind of helping him here and there, taking him places, driving him places, stuff like that. So I was fortunate that I was able to work from home for a few days after he was pretty well recovered. So that is why I was asking for prayers and why I didn't have videos going up for I think a little bit over a week. So he is definitely on the mend. He's doing much better now. He's had a follow-up with his doctor. He's got another follow-up with the urologist. So things are looking much better. It's been a whirlwind of emotions, that's for sure. Lots of ups and downs. Really kind of makes you look at a lot. And then we went to church this morning and got more emotional because we found out our lead pastor is leaving in a couple of weeks. He just had a calling to go up north, so he's going to be listening to that calling and taking him up north. We are really, really devastated because this pastor is just absolutely amazing to us. His teachings are so good. He just really has a way to suck you in. So we're really upset about that, but we understand God has a plan for everyone, so we are being supportive. And we know that he has a plan for us too. So that's what's been going on with my husband. And of course, this all happened the end of January. And so now let me share with you on my way of eating for the first month of January, how I did, how everything was looking. So I have mentioned I've been following Weight Watchers for years and years and years. And when I started this channel 5 years ago, I was strictly Weight Watchers. My whole thinking, my whole thought process was make foods as low point as possible. I didn't care about the ingredients. I really didn't know anything about the ingredients, I guess. I was kind of oblivious to that. It was just a matter of, I didn't pay attention to like macros, like protein or carbs or fats. It was strictly points. And if it was low points, then that's how I made it. I would do anything I could to try and tweak things to make the points lower. Then over the years, in that 5 years, I took a nutrition course class and just kind of really started learning about using food for fuel or food for medicine, and really starting to realize some of the ingredients that I was putting in my body, and realize that going super low points doesn't necessarily mean going super healthy. So I really was trying to make some changes and kind of played around with a lot of different things over the past few years. And in the meantime, still trying to keep my channel more Weight Watcher focused, but I was struggling during this last year because I really got interested in an animal-based diet. So how it started, honestly, was from my son. My son started doing some research on the carnivore diet. If you're not sure what carnivore is, that is basically where all they eat is meat. It is a no carb diet. There are no carbs. They don't eat fruit. They don't eat vegetables. They eat just meat, butter, beef tallow, ghee. I know there are some cheese that's allowed. It's very, very, very meat-based. I know animal-based is meat-based too, but this is like strict meat-based. He doesn't eat vegetables anyways. He never has. I think when he was a kid growing up, maybe we could get him to eat corn once in a while. Green beans, he actually learned to love green beans when he went in the military. So but that's pretty much the extent of the vegetables. So he got started with carnivore. And so being the mom I am, he's 33 years old. He can do his own research. But of course, Mama had to go in and see what this was all about that he's doing. And in doing so, I saw a lot of positive research. I saw where medical conditions were being healed from some people. I will tell you, there's a lot of YouTube channels out there that are dedicated to carnivore. And so I kind of got looking at some of those. Personally, for me, I find it fascinating. I will admit, I do find it fascinating, but I do like vegetables and I do like fruit. So for me, it's not the way that I want to go for my body. I have always said to you, you do you. And that's true for my family as well. We all have to do what works for us. And I have really become, after doing research on all different types of diets, vegan, vegetarian, animal-based, carnivore, all these different diets that are out there, I've realized that I don't I just personally don't think there is any one right diet for anybody. I think we all just kind of have to do our own research, and we have to determine what works best for us. I can do research and I can find the most trustworthy doctors, dietitians, anybody saying something positive about one diet, and then I'm going to find just as many trustworthy doctors, dietitians, whoever, that are saying the opposite. One thing I love about this community and all of you on this channel is I think we are so diverse. I think that I can put that little Weight Watchers logo on my videos, but it's not just Weight Watchers. I think that there's a lot of people doing a lot of different ways of eating. I know I have a lot of followers who do keto. I think when I did my last chat video, one of you had commented and said that you don't eat meat or you don't eat red meat. And that is what I love about this, is that it's a positive community here where we're not attacking the other person on their way of eating. You will never hear me tell you that the way that you're eating is wrong. Will I sit here and tell you that we really should not be eating ultra processed foods? Yes, but you have to make that choice of what you're going to eat, what you're going to cut out, and what you are. There might be some things that you just say, you know what, I'm going to give up this and this and this, but I am not giving up this. And that's totally okay. That's where you have to make that choice, and you have to find what works for you. And I always say, people used to say, oh, you need to make sure you do your meal preps every week because I eat exactly like you every single day. And that's what you don't want to do. That you don't want to follow somebody exactly the same, because you may not get the same results. You may not feel the same, and you have to do what works for you. You have to be the one who makes those choices on what you're feeding your body and fueling your body. So I have to do my own research, and I have to determine what works best for me. And the way that I determine that is based on my blood work at the doctor and based on how my body feels. That's pretty much where I'm going with that. So I got looking, when I did that, and that's when I got looking into animal-based. I just really felt like, hey, animal-based is kind of, I've always loved meat, so don't get me wrong. I have always been a meat eater. So in the animal-based, when I realized that it was, fruits and vegetables, you kind of have some vegetables, not a whole lot. The true strict animal-based is not a lot of vegetables at all. It's really mostly easily digestible foods, and a lot of vegetables are just not easily digestible. And so that's where they say to stick more with fruit. But personally for me, I do add in vegetables, so that's why I say that I do a modified version of it. And so when I was looking into it, I was like, this is really kind of more of a whole foods diet, and it doesn't include any of the ultra processed foods. And so that's what really piqued my interest, because I am at a point in my life, I'm 53, I'm doing this for health. I'm not doing it for weight loss anymore. If weight loss comes with it, that's great, but I'm doing it for health. I'm doing it for my blood work and how I feel. So that's pretty much how I got started with it. I have ulcerative colitis, so I was looking for some easily digestible foods that will make me feel good, that don't cause a lot of inflammation in my body, and that's when I got looking down that road. So I'm eating meats, I'm eating fish, I'm eating poultry, a lot more beef than I used to eat. I'm eating a lot more red meat. I'm eating lots of eggs. I eat for like butters and oil. I have butter, ghee, beef tallow. Beef tallow I usually only use if I'm making like a really lean beef. I don't care for the flavor of beef tallow like in my eggs. I did try that. I'll eat bacon. I will use bacon grease for cooking, which is still like poison coming out of my mouth, because I was always taught that bacon is horrible for you and bacon grease and lard are awful. And so I'm just trying to get back to getting rid of all the stuff that I was taught over the years with the diet culture stuff. But I don't use a lot of that. I would say I use mostly grass-fed butter. I love grass-fed butter from Aldi, and I do cook with ghee. I would say I use those the most. Olive oil and avocado oil are the only two oils that I'm using anymore. And even those I don't use a whole lot of. I would say I probably use butter the most. But again, I'm not putting globs of butter. I'm still weighing and measuring everything. I'm still having it in reasonable amounts. I may put a half a tablespoon of butter on something, or if it's okay to just have a quarter of a tablespoon if it works. I do my little dates, my little date that I cut open, put some grass-fed butter, drizzle some dark chocolate. So dark chocolate is another thing. Typically, you don't see chocolate on an animal-based diet, but that is one thing that I do add to mine. And then for dairy, I've been really trying to stick to full fat dairy. I do organic as much as possible, and if I can afford it. If you can afford organic, grass-fed, pasture-raised, that's great. Those are the ones that they suggest. My thing is, if you can't afford it or you don't have access to it, just don't worry about it. The fact that you're eliminating ultra-processed foods is going to help you. It's going to improve your health by not having all of those. So I always say, if you have access and you can afford the grass-fed, the organic, all that. I will say some weeks I can, some weeks I can't. I don't worry about it if I can get it. Aldi usually has some pretty good prices on their grass-fed meats and their grass-fed butter. And the pasture-raised eggs. So for me, pasture-raised eggs are a must, only because I do notice a difference in how I digest those versus regular eggs. So I've pretty much used pasture-raised eggs for quite a while now, even before I was doing animal-based. And the grass-fed butter, like I said, it's just as cheap to get that at Aldi. Grass-fed meat just depends on where I get it. Some places I will get the grass-fed, sometimes I won't, just depends on the price and if I can afford it that week. And then for cheeses, hard cheeses, I'll get Parmesan, feta cheese. I love feta cheese, so I try and stick more with those. I will use hard cheddar. So vegetables, like I said, I have vegetables. There's really not any particular vegetable that I don't have. Like I said, typically you don't have a lot of vegetables on animal-based, but I do have them once in a while. But I have a lot of zucchini. I've mentioned in previous videos, I have zucchini all different ways. I cook it all different ways. And zucchini is actually a fruit. So zucchini is one thing on animal-based that you can have. Zucchini, squash, spaghetti squash, those are things that are on the animal-based list. And then avocado, I will have avocados. For like milk, I've never really been a big milk drinker, but my husband and I have been using A2 milk. He likes milk at night, but he was finding some issues that he was having. And so with the A2 milk, it's a lot more easier to digest. So we've been having that. I was actually getting an A2 half and half for my coffee, but then Aldi started selling an organic half and half that had really good ingredients. So I started using that. And then for sweeteners, it is fruit and honey and some organic maple syrup, which usually I'll use that like in my coffee. So anything I'm eating, I'm okay if there's sugar in it as long as there's not added sugar. So this is just where I'm at right now. The biggest thing of it is it's removing the ultra processed food. So I am not being strict animal-based whole foods. If I'm at, say someplace for lunch, somebody makes something. In fact, that's a perfect example. We had a lot of people bringing us food. When my husband went through the medical issues he was having, we got home, we were having people that were bringing us food. So obviously I'm very appreciative of that. And I'm certainly not going to say, oh, I can't eat this. I'm eating animal-based. So I did go off of it for a little bit. During that two-week period, but I'm not extremely strict anyway. If if I'm out to lunch, I'm going to eat a salad and it may not be completely animal-based. So as long as I'm pretty much doing like 80-20, I was real strict in the beginning of January and real strict with the sugar. So I had mentioned in my last chat video that I was reading the 40-day sugar fast book. I did not make it through that whole book because when my husband went in the hospital, it just got put on the back burner. So I am going to continue the book. I'm going to continue. In fact, right now, as I'm talking, I am back 100% on the animal-based whole foods diet. But I did go off the rails a little bit while we were in the hospital. Like I said, I stayed there with him. My daughter brought me food one day. I was going down to the cafeteria a lot, and then a lot of times by the time I went down to the cafeteria, it was late at night where a lot of the cooking stations were closed down. So I was having to just grab a sandwich or salad. So I was making somewhat okay choices, but definitely was not falling in line with the way that I had been eating the beginning of the month. And as you know, that's really a stressful time. And as much as I wish I could sit here and tell you, oh, I did excellent. My husband was in the hospital and I still went down to the cafeteria and I only got meat and I got vegetables and I got fruit. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you that I did that, because no, it was a very stressful time. Never been more scared that I was going to lose my husband. And I really honestly didn't care about myself at that point. And I know that sounds awful because you're supposed to put yourself first in order to take care of others, but he was my focus. And I was just grabbing, I wasn't paying attention to what I was eating. I wasn't tracking. That was like, it wasn't of importance to me. What's important though is now that he's better and he's improving, I am back on track and I'm doing great. So that's pretty much a rundown of the way that I've been eating. I feel amazing when I eat this way. I notice a huge difference in just everything, my attitude, my outlook. I'm energized. I feel happy. I feel rejuvenated. I don't even know how to explain how the difference it makes me feel. I don't feel slumpy and like I just want to lay on the couch and watch a movie, which I was feeling a lot. And part of that was because in December, like December is Christmas movie month. So I was watching a lot of TV in December compared to what I usually do. Okay, so now let's share with you how I did through the month of January. I actually started this way of eating a few days before January 1st. It was like around December 29th, I believe, somewhere around there. The first week I lost 5.9 pounds, which is great. That was awesome. And let me just put this out there. A lot of you know, I really don't like to pay attention to the scale. It is just a number. It doesn't tell the true picture. And you definitely can't get any type of idea in the first month. It's really down the road that tells the big picture. So I'm just sharing this with you because I know a lot of you are interested in what the scale said for me this month. So 5.9 the first week. And then the second week, I was down another 1.8. The third week, I was down 2.1, so we've got some consistency going on here. And then the next week, 1.2 gain. Not a big deal. It is literally 1 pound, a pound. So I wasn't worried about that at all. And when I looked at my little app that I have for my scale, I'll link the scale that I have down below. It has it like kind of tells your bone, it tells your muscle mass, it tells all different things. But I had gained, I didn't even write it down. I had gained like 2 or 3 pounds of muscle. So the first 3 weeks, 9.8 pounds, then gained up 1.2, and then my husband ended up in the hospital. And how did that go? I was up 3.6. Did I gain 3.6 pounds of fat? No, there's no way that I could have gained that much. So I think probably it was just from adding back in sugar and carbs, and I was probably a lot more inflamed, holding water. Water retention can definitely do it. So I knew I was going to be up, and I've given myself grace for that. I mean, we went through a pretty rough time, so I'm not too concerned about it. The good thing is I'm back on track now. And that's why I don't really care for the scale, because the old me would have probably thrown in the towel, got upset about the 3.6. I know it was from the sugar and carbs, adding that stuff back in, and just I wasn't getting activity in. I was sitting in the hospital room with him all day, all night. I would get up and walk around some, in the halls, or go down to the cafeteria, just kind of walk around some, but for the most part, I wasn't getting activity. And if you watched my last chat video, I've been doing real well with my activity. I had been using my treadmill every day. I got up to the point where I was actually even doing sprints, doing some running. So I would like walk for 3 minutes and then I would run for 4 minutes. Started out with running 2 minutes, then I went to 3 minutes, then I went to 4 minutes, and I actually hit the last time I was on the treadmill was 5-minute sprint. So I was really working up my endurance, and then this happened and kind of lost my endurance a little. So getting back to it slowly. Bottom line is though, for the entire month, I still ended up down 5 pounds. So that is completely, I will take that. I'm happy with that. But again, I'm at a point where that's great. The weight loss is great, but it's more about how I feel and being healthy. So I'm definitely going to continue this way of eating. I will try to update you like every month. I'll probably do like the first week of each month. I'll try and put a chat video on to let you know how I did in that previous month. So like this next one, maybe like the first week of March, I'll do a chat video to let you know how I did throughout the month of February. So again, I wanted to say thank you to all of you so much for all your prayers for my husband. We still have, some things to work on, but God has a plan for us and we trust him wholeheartedly. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one.